This week on the Derek's Live, we're talking about becoming the version of yourself that your children deserve. You owe it to them. You owe it to yourself. Stop making fucking excuses. Let's get it. Doesn't that just want to make you jump out of mosh pit? It does. I know I do. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Derek's Live. I'm Sean. I'm going to be your host tonight here with my beautiful wife, Emily. How you doing, Emily?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm digging that. I hope you guys like it. I hope it wasn't too much. I don't really care if it was. But seriously, welcome. Hope you guys are having a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon or whatever time of day you're listening to this at, because it's late here and we're getting it in. Had a long day, but enjoying the process and putting the work in nonetheless. How are you, Em?
I'm good. I enjoyed football weekend.
Oh, I did not enjoy football weekend.
It was a rough Gator game, but it was a good football weekend.
It was a good football weekend. Bama barely squeaked it out. Florida got their ass kicked by fucking Kentucky. It's ridiculous. And then the Jags lost today.
Washington.
So all those Georgia fans, though, I bet they're happy. They're finally number one in something. So they might go back to back for the first time.
Be something.
They're going to have to learn how to read. All right.
Well, then.
We love SEC football, and there is all is fair in love and football. So welcome to the show, guys. We're glad you're here today, and thanks for listening. Thank you guys for everybody that's just been tagging along and listening and showing up for the lives, sharing shit. It's been really cool.
Yeah, we are definitely humbled by the amount of support that we've gotten through this. So
Yes.
we are so grateful for every one of you that has liked, shared, subscribed, and just tagged along for the journey.
It's been definitely an awesome experience. So we're excited about this week's episode and our topic that we're talking about, but we've got a couple of housekeeping things we want to get out of the way here.
First and foremost, we want to reiterate a couple of things. We definitely love the feedback, the like, subscribe, leave a review. And one of the other things that we want to mention is this is not a church podcast. I know that we had a couple of people ask.
Yeah, a couple of people actually reached out this week and were like, hey, so is this going to be a church thing? Because I don't know that I want to do a church thing. It's not a church thing. I'll let you talk to that a little bit.
Well, and it's not a bad thing. This is who we are.
For
this
sure.
is where we came from. And the church, that episode needed to happen so that you could see where we are and where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big piece of this puzzle. And it's going to kind of weave in and out of everything that we do because it played such a big part in our history. So, but that is not the goal of this. The goal is really to reach out and to walk with you on this journey. We want you to become the best version of yourself that's possible. And we want you to be the best version for your family and for your kids. So,
yeah, I mean, our goal is just to add some value to your life, right? And we're trying to figure this shit out too. Have not arrived by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like every day we're getting a little bit better than we were yesterday, and that's the goal here, right? So we wanted to also talk to you guys about release dates. We've really been struggling to get these things out on time just because of the day that we picked to drop episodes. We made a mistake there. We didn't put a lot of forethought into that.
well, and we didn't really take into account our the schedule that was happening with our homeschool schedule, and we kind of planned everything before we actually started back full time because we kind of part-time went through the summer with homeschooling, but we started back September 1st, which is kind of about the same time we started podcasting.
Yeah, and so everything changed.
Yeah.
So we're gonna push our release date back to Wednesdays. That'll give us a little bit more flow through the weekend to get episode structured a little bit better and probably record a little bit sooner than the night of and be able to put some better content together for you guys. So watch for episode 4 on Wednesday, and thanks for following along. But our heart is that if you're getting something out of this, please make sure you're sharing it. This episode particularly, we think that you're going to like this. And so if this adds value to your life, think about someone else's life that it might add some value to, and make sure that you get it in their hands so that they can hear it too.
So, and part of that is following on all of the different, if you like us on Spotify, like us on Apple Podcast, YouTube, follow us on
all the places,
and share as it comes up, share the live, share the podcast as much as you can. So we're jumping in, Sean. What can you kind of describe what the goal of this episode is?
Well, we want you to stop sucking. Because we sucked for a long time, and some ways we still suck, but we're trying not to suck anymore. And so I don't know if you've been following us, if you're even a little bit close to us, you may have noticed over the last 1 to 2 years, especially over the last few months, that we've really tried to be a little bit different and to step up a little bit more. We're really trying to put more content out there and to do some things in our professional lives to better our family and ourselves.
Our personal lives.
Health, yeah.
It's
all around.
Things, yeah.
We're opening all the closets and throwing out all the shit and figuring out what's worth putting back in the closet.
Yeah.
And some of that shit should have been taken to the dump a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, I think we're not there yet, right?
Right.
And so we've really struggled with the idea of bringing some of this topic to the forefront because you almost feel like you have to arrive.
Yeah.
Like I need to have 7 or 12 figures in the bank to be able to hop on a podcast and help people. And I just don't, it's an insecurity, I think, that we struggle with. And, I think that there's people out there that need to hear this. And if we don't do this, then I think we'll regret it.
Well, and it's always you can wait for somebody else to do it, but how long are you going to wait? And if we're doing this and we're walking this journey and you can walk with us, then why not, just kind of help each other up this mountain?
Just the fucking feedback we've gotten already 2 episodes in has been phenomenal. So, I know that there's going to be people that listen to this and who the fuck is this guy? Or who the fuck is she? Who do they think they are? And that's cool. Do you, but go do it somewhere else. We don't, that's okay.
Well, and check back in 6 months because you might recognize us by then.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're not trying to, be Insta famous or any shit like that. We just want you to fucking be able to get what we're getting. And you almost feel like you're robbing your friends and your family in the world if you don't share. And that's the reality, right? And so one of the things that really, really fucked us up is we were on this stage. It wasn't a stage. We were at an event, and someone on the stage said, "Hey, you owe your kids the best version of yourself you can give them."
And it was like a stab to the heart.
It makes me fucking almost get teary-eyed just to say it, because I fucked that up for a long time, right? And I think we've been trying for a long time. I think there was these little moments in our lives that we caused us to kind of do some self-evaluation in the last 2 to 3 years that have really just kind of flipped our world upside down from the openness and transparency that we, tackled those discussions with each other in our marriage and holding each other accountable for those things.
Yeah.
But eventually we had to look in the mirror and decide individually that it was time to not suck anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And to hold each other accountable for that decision.
But it was kind of crazy. We really arrived at that at different moments.
Yeah.
And so I know for me, like I was in a job where I was not making great money, but I wasn't making horrible money. Very service oriented, heavy labor, long fucking hours. And I got let go. And it was like, well, fuck, what am I going to do now? And I had been kind of on this journey. Before I got let go, I had read Gary Vee's book, Crushing It. We're going to give a copy of that away on the live on Thursday.
And we'll give you some more details at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So
make sure it's a fucking awesome book, but it changed my life. And like the whole premise of the book is just figuring out what makes you tick, really, right? And realizing that there's so much more to life than a fucking degree or a 9 to 5 or, you know, whatever you're stuck in. And so through that, we decided to kind of make some changes in our life. It was kind of a process, but we ended up at this conference in that process.
Yeah, it was kind of our birthday gift to you. So you were like, I think I want to go to this. I'm like, well, it's kind of around your birthday. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I'd been watching this guy on fucking some of these Facebook sales groups that I'm a part of. Like there's like entrepreneur groups and whatever. And this guy, Ryan Stewman, had been in this sales group that he started and dropping content. And I really liked his stuff. And he was putting this, this event on. And I was like, you know, it wasn't horrible expensive, but it wasn't like cheap. And to fly out to Dallas and buy hotels and all that fun shit. So, you know, but we spent some money on this thing.
Yeah.
And so, but it was like, hey, it's my birthday. Fuck you. We're going. That wasn't it. It was.
I think that was a part of it. Like, we don't really know what this is, but we think that this might be the next step.
Yeah.
So let's go and we'll kind of play it by ear. You know, if it works, it works. If not, it was a good excuse to get away for the weekend and celebrate your birthday.
Yeah. And we had a great time.
And we did, but it was really a catalyst, I think, for so many things. When we got back, it was like, okay, we're not going to just sit idle. We're not going to just wait for things to happen.
Well, and really, like, there had been this shift as a couple prior to that. And so you read Andy Andrews' book, 7 Principles.
Yep. And I said, you have to read this.
Like, made me read this book. I was like, and I wasn't like, I read from time to time. I'll read maybe 3 books a year, if that, on an average year. And she's like, no, you got to fucking read this book. You got to read this book.
And something shifted because we read it together. And it allowed us to have open dialogue and conversation. Like, did you get to this part yet? What did you think about that? And it really was like this crazy dynamic that I wasn't expecting, but I was so hopeful for.
Well, and it's been really cool because I know like we've been married for 15 years, right? And you get to a place in marriage where like you talk about the kids, right? Like you know each other. Like we can finish each other's sentences. I know what you're feeling for dinner. You know when I've had a bad day at work and we haven't talked. Like we know. And so like a lot of our conversation has dwelled upon like, oh, what these kids do today or what's going on with this one or
and that's important, but it
absolutely
shouldn't be the majority of our
But like
time.
when we started reading together, it really brought a whole nother like intellectual piece into our marriage that we hadn't really experienced before.
And intimacy too, because it allowed us to kind of dig deep into each other. Like, I don't know. It definitely was a different level of intimacy.
Definitely improved our sex life, I think, for sure. So fellas,
go read with
your wife and she will do dirty things for you. It's a phenomenal. So I'll mute that out, but I'm not going to. So, for me, that leaving work moment was kind of like when I arrived and really started to make that change and just trying to dig deeper into what was going on. I started a company that failed miserably and I got lazy and kind of had to reevaluate again. COVID cost me, my business, but a lot of it was at my hands and not preparing well for that and just not being prepared. I just wasn't, I didn't expect it and hadn't prepared anything, like no emergency fund or anything like that. So I fucked up on that. And so I dived into another career. I jumped back into solar sales and never really looked back on that, but it's definitely been a change. And then trying to lose some weight in the process. I'm down a pretty good bit, but there's all these areas in our life that we keep stuff in these closets in, and we just become okay with it and decide that it's just okay to suck in that area. So when for you was that moment that you said, I'm not going to suck anymore? Like what changed for you?
Well, I mean, it was a couple of different things. And like you said, it's kind of been over the course of several years. I think the first shift happened when we started the fostering adoptive process, and we brought children into our lives that were already somewhat grown, because it was like, diving headfirst into a volcano. And you just kind of have to figure it out, like what is important and what makes sense. But I think that this shift, being out where we are, having the rural lifestyle and kind of relying on each other and the land and our family, I guess, made me realize that like there's so much that I overestimated and underestimated. I totally thought that there was so much more value in the piece of paper degree. And
well, I think we're sold this fucking thing as kids, right? That like we have to go to school, you have to go to college and become a doctor or a lawyer or a CNA, and there's no in between. Like you're going to either make $15 an hour for the rest of your life, or you're going to go to school and maybe make six figures if you're lucky.
yeah,
and that's all there is to life. You have one or the other. And for the most part, if you think about it,
that's what happens.
That's what happens. I know people who have been at dead end fucking jobs their entire life and have no ambition to do anything besides that. Right. If you've ever worked in a fast food restaurant, somebody who's in their latter years in life that's still there and has probably been a lifer. I can go back and look at people that I work with in the food industry that are still in that industry. Yeah. And not that there's anything wrong with the food industry. Look, like for some people, your happiness and your, where you're going looks different. But I think you should always want better for yourself and to excel at whatever you're doing.
Well, and it's not always tied to finances.
No, not at all.
So like your journey might look very different than ours, but if your journey is moving up that mountain and it's finding happiness, it's finding health, it's finding like that family aspect that you can rely on those people and surrounding yourself with the people that will encourage you to be the best version of you, whether you have $1 million in the bank or $10 in the bank, you're still moving in the right direction.
Well, I think it's really interesting when we talk about like your version of a success, because for us, even those have been different.
Yeah.
For me, I came from a broken home. My dad has been in prison since I was very, very young. I watched my mom as a single mother. She had boyfriends in and out of her life as two pretty main relationships, but neither one of them were very financial, successful. We always scraped by. We didn't have a lot. Bought clothes from friends and hand-me-downs, and like we didn't have a lot. And so for me, I wrapped a lot of my success and my value in having those things. And so that's where I've always, like my goal has always been to make more money this year than I did the year before. It's just something, even when I was 15 working at fucking Pizza Hut, that was my goal. Like, hey, what do I need to do more next year? Yeah. Like, it's got to be better next year because I'm not doing this year again.
Yeah.
And most of the time that works out. There's been a year or two that hasn't. But the goal for me has always been to be financially more stable than I was the year before. And I think that's been a lot of the driving force, is that upbringing and the lack as a child that defined my need for that. And so for me, I tie a lot of my success up in financial worth.
But I don't. And I never have.
Never have.
So like, I remember being 7-ish, maybe 8 years old, and laying out like my dream life. And I wanted to have 5 kids. I wanted to have a dog. I wanted to have a farm, and I was going to call it Horse Feathers. Like I had this was it. I wanted to live near Ocala. I wanted to be able to go to football games because even at 7 years old, I was a Gator fan. much to my mother's dismay because she went to Florida State for college. So like I was a Gator fan. Like I think I was born a Gator fan. Like I bleed orange and blue. And we bought this property. I'm like, okay, this is it. I've arrived. I even have like extra kids, extra dogs. Now I've got chickens and guineas and bunny rabbits.
When we bought this place, I bought like a used single wide to drop on this thing to live because there was nothing here. And I was like, I promise you I'm going to get a house. She was like, I don't need a house. This is friggin' awesome. I got everything. I'm like, no, we're getting a house. I'm not living in this piece of shit for the rest of my life.
So, but the comparison between like and we kind of grew up in very similar backgrounds. We didn't have a lot financially. And, you know, my parents were divorced. So there was definitely times of like scarcity.
Well, but I think your dad kind of became successful.
He did. But he also struggled greatly with great success. Oftentimes comes the opposite.
Well, and I think that's part of it. Like I know even us, we've made some frivolous mistakes. Right. And when you don't have an understanding of money and you don't come from a background that is used to having money, you know,
you get it and you just go crazy.
The first month you make 50 or 60K in a month, you're like, shit, like you go do some stupid stuff with that usually. And you don't have to. Like there are all kinds of ways to not go do stupid stuff now.
Yeah.
So I'm not advocating for that in any way. Anyway.
So, but you know, in keeping with that story, my aha moment wasn't so much an aha moment as it was an oh shit moment. We got to this point where we had two that had been starting in public school, and it just became absolute chaos. And that was the kick in the butt. Like, okay, I can't provide what you need if you're away from our home in a place that I can't help you 7-8 hours a day.
Yeah. I mean, so for you, it was, you know, you concentrate much more and it's not that it's not important to me. It's just that I'm out paying the bills and she's out, growing and raising lions. And we do a lot of lion raising together. But Emily is predominantly, you know, she's here all the time and I'm out of the house working. And so that the shift, where she started homeschooling our girls really changed a lot in our family dynamic and really, really accelerated, I think, our desire to really just be what we felt like they deserved out of us, right?
And what we wanted for them.
Yeah.
That we want to raise them in an environment of continually growing and pushing the boundaries and not being content with where they're at. And I think that was like the first moment when they wanted to hold our oldest back in kindergarten, that she was delayed and they were trying to give us diagnosis. And I'm like, I don't think that all of that fits. I think that she just needs to have some place where she can express herself. Yeah. And you're not letting her do that. And the moment that we introduced art, the moment that we introduced creativity, I mean, it was like you just lit a rocket and she just exploded.
Well, like learning how to, like, if you're not teaching to your kids skills and like learning how they learn and what makes them tick, you're really missing the boat. You know, I would say, even a fish looks foolish if you ask him to climb a tree or some shit like that. You know, there's some things that people just can't do. Yeah. We're not all the same.
And there's some things that they can do amazing, but you put them in this box and they never get to shine. And the moment that they get to shine, their whole world changes.
Well, and that's the thing. Some of y'all been locked in a fucking box your whole life because you've listened to what a parent or a teacher or some asshole manager or something has degraded you to, and you don't see your worth anymore. Yep. And so I know it's so easy to get stuck in this perpetual fucking loop that, hey, I've just got to go pay the bills. I'm going to go make my 15 or my 20 or my $30 an hour. I'm just going to ship the kids off and do whatever. And you just get stuck and you just keep doing this same thing over and over again because you don't see any other way.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, there's another fucking way. And you've got to find that for you. Our way is not like, there's not a wrong way, a right way. Everybody's thing looks different. Yeah. But stop just being okay with mediocrity. stop being okay sucking. Like, you don't have to suck.
Well, and there's so much more. Like the moment that you really step out of that boat and just go for it, it's really quite insane, the doors that just kind of open up and the things that are pulling you towards greatness if you just take that leap of faith.
Yeah.
And your kids are worth it. Your lineage is worth that risk.
Well, and I think that's been like one of the biggest things for us, right? Is I know for me, like my family name has never had a lot of value. Both of my parents are high school dropouts, love me unconditionally, and I love my parents. But they didn't come from a lot.
Yeah.
My dad's been in prison my whole fucking life. He was 18, 19 years old when he went away. I was born very young. And so I've been raised with a fatherless home. I had an alcoholic, one stepdad who was an alcoholic and another one who was a drug addict. And there just was never this male model in my life to say, hey, this is what you can do and this is what you can't. For me, college wasn't an option. Right. We didn't have the finances to go to college, and I damn sure wasn't a good enough student to get any type of scholarship. I got expelled in school. I was a fuck up by every stretch of the imagination. So when I graduated high school, I just went to work. That's what I was, that was the only option. I didn't have another option.
But I think even early on, I mean, you were 18 when we met.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah.
You were 18.
Yeah.
And
just turned 18, I think.
I think the moment that we started talking about kids and about a future, you're like, listen, this is it. This is forever. I'm not going to leave you. You're not going to leave. If we're doing this all the way, and I'm going to be there for my kids. Like that was the expectation from the moment that we started having that conversation.
Both of us have always had a desire to have a family and to raise a strong family.
Yes.
Because I think that was something we were longing for in our own life,
That was the missing piece for us.
Sure.
And we wanted it so desperately for ourselves. And that when we found each other and that it was a common piece, that we kind of latched onto that.
So, for us, like the journey here is about not affecting so much today, but we want to make sure that we're leaving a legacy for our grandchildren's grandchildren, that they know who we were and they know that we were the ones that put them in the position that they were at, because they're before us. Like there was nothing, right? Like someone has to fucking be the one to figure out how this thing works and to change your family tree. It might as well fucking be you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not going to happen until you do something though. You owe your children the best version of you can be.
And it takes action.
It takes 100% action. It's a 100% commitment.
Yes.
It's everything you think about and making a good decision in every fucking thing you do, and not fucking settling and not allowing what we call, what Ryan would call the force of average to come into your life and just fuck you all the time because you allow it. It's so easy. This is the third fucking take we've shot tonight, and we could have just been like, nope, going to bed. We fought with a 2-year-old all night long. She didn't go down until after 10. And here we are, and we're fucking doing it because we know that this is what's required of us to get to where we want to be.
Yep.
We want to be here adding value to your fucking life and giving ourselves to you so that they'll know who we were.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's it. Like we want our girls to see those values instilled in all of our kids. We want those values to be instilled in all of them, and they can see that and learn that through us as an example. And you can be that 100%. For your family.
100%.
So Sean, if we're making that decision, what are some first steps? What are some things that we can do right off the bat that would start this journey? If you say, I really want to start something, where do we start?
I think the first thing you have to do is you have to accept that you're in the position you're in because of you.
Yes.
Right? There's so many people who want to be like just so quick to say, well, I didn't have this and I didn't have that and I didn't have this opportunity and that this person didn't do this for me. And the reality is that all of that is true, right? But there are a lot of fucking people out there who have made it in this country because they went out and took it.
Yep.
They went out and earned it. They did the work and they got where they wanted to be in spite of.
Yes.
Right. And it's your fault if you don't have it. And that's the first thing you have to accept. If you're not where you want to be, it's nobody else's fault but your own. Go out there and do the work and fucking take it.
And own it.
And own it.
Good, bad, ugly, otherwise. If it doesn't work, it's on you. If it does work, it's on you. And own that part of that decision and that part of that action step.
Absolutely, 100%. And so it starts with you. If you can't own it, you'll never get where you want to be, because it's always going to be somebody else's fault that you didn't make it. There was never enough time or never enough money. Stop making fucking excuses and go out and do it and own it.
So if we're on that journey and we're saying, okay, I can make that commitment. I can own this decision. I'm going to own being different tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And it's taking one day at a time. What are some steps that I can start tomorrow that would start me on that next step?
Well, the first thing I would say is start reading, because I know, like, I have never been a reader. And when I tell you I've never been a reader, like fucking AR books, I faked every fucking AR thing I ever did. I read like 2 fucking books in middle school and high school. I don't know how I squeaked out of high school without doing a bunch of. I do know I went to a school for retards, but you know, I've never enjoyed reading ever, and so when Audible came around, though, Audible has changed my fucking life.
Yes,
you know, and so read. I'm reading on average 4 to 5 books a month. If I'm getting some smaller books in, as many as 10 or 15.
Yeah, I think one month you hit 12, and then the next month I think you hit 17.
So I'm just trying to absorb everything that I can, and we're doing a lot of it together. It's been really cool.
So the majority of the books, if you are married, if you have a spouse, if you have older children, teenage children, and we do it with our toddlers, we listen to books in the car, and
they love it.
I cannot believe how much my 2, 5, and 7-year-old pick up.
That fucking Andy Andrews book that we read, and that's what really started our reading thing. I think is we read 7 Principles by Andy Andrews. We're gonna have our top 5 list drop on Facebook this week, so check out the Facebook page. You'll be able to get our top 5 books there. But we read that. Well, Emily read that, and she was like, "Hey, Sean, you got to read this."
Yeah. I was in my craft room, like just devouring it and like taking notes, and like I had Post-its on the wall. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "You have to read this book. This is amazing." You're like, "Okay." I'm like, "No, for real. This is different. This is a really good book."
And I'm like, she gets excited about shit all the time. And I'm like, "Okay, honey, that's sure." But she wouldn't leave me alone about it. And so I started listening to it in the car. You know, I drive a lot for work, so I get the opportunity to have a lot of quiet time that Emily doesn't have the luxury of having, because she's got 3 fucking kids running around all the time screaming. And so I listen to all of my books in the car for the most part. And so I started reading it, and then we started really dialoguing about it and talking about it. And it got to the point that we were caught up and we were reading it together. Or I don't know, did you restart it?
I restarted it. So I finished it and started it again.
And so it was really cool being able to dive into that together. And so, you know, it really, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It really allowed us to have a different intellectual connection that I don't think we had before.
Yeah.
I know that like we talk a lot about our kids and, you know, our professional careers, but
outside of that, it was kind of dry.
Yeah.
In some ways. But that was definitely, it allowed us to have an intellectual and an intimacy that we would lay in bed and talk about what we read. And what did you think about that? How would you do that? What would you say? How would you say that? And could you apply this? How would I apply this with the kids? Help me understand this so I can explain it to the kids.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool, I mean, it goes back to the kids, but it was a conversation that we had for what's important to us and what we value, which is our family. And it was just a really neat experience to have together.
Well, and I think it even allowed us to be more intimate together in a way. And I mean, it did all kinds of things for our marriage, even outside of just the intellectual growth that we've experienced. So it's been really cool. So definitely get in some books and figure out, you know, what makes you tick, what you need, evaluate yourself in that. And I think if you're reading the right books, growth has to happen, right?
Yes.
And listen, stay out of the fiction section.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay every now and then if that's what does it for you. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to be spending some time on some things that add value to your life.
And there are some fiction books
Sure.
that actually fit this narrative.
Well, Traveler's Gift is the perfect example.
The Traveler's Gift is Andy Andrews' fictional story that plays into the 7 principles. Another one that's really good is Ogmandino. What's the name of that?
The Greatest Salesman.
The Greatest Salesman. Yeah. And he has a trilogy. Very similar ideas, but it's presented in a fictional story. So if fiction speaks to you, there is a ton of fiction out there that is laced with principles
yeah.
and like valuable nonfiction stuff is weaved in.
Mm-hmm.
So find that kind of stuff. And from like a housekeeping standpoint, this does not have to cost you a fortune. Library cards are free.
Oh, free, 100%. And most libraries have audiobooks now too. I don't know if you know that or not, but
and a lot of libraries actually have a digital subscription,
yes.
So you don't even have to
you
go,
don't have to go to the library. You can just
You
get the audiobook right on the fucking library website.
Right from the phone.
It's pretty dope.
There's a lot of our local library actually has an app. It's not great, but you can request books and they have them ready for you when you get there, or you can download books and read them right on your phone or listen to them. And so this does not have to go cost you a fortune. If money is tight, this is still a step that you can take today.
Yeah, owning it, part of owning it is not making excuses anymore,
That's
right? Like if you're going to own it and you're going to say, hey, I suck because of me and I'm going to get better because of me, you don't get to make excuses anymore. If you say, if you hear yourself saying, oh, but, or, oh, I only if, like say, stop that shit. Stop telling yourself that. Get that out of your head and say, no, how do I fucking make it happen?
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to start making it happen. Your kids deserve that. Go make it happen. And so, Emily, talking about that in the next steps, what's the next thing that people can do pretty easily to kind of get started here and accelerate themselves?
Well, a lot of where you are is the people that you surround yourself with. So choosing wisely the people that are in your life that are feeding you and encouraging you. You do not want somebody in your life that is constantly tearing you down, telling you not worthy, telling you that you're never going to be successful,
For sure.
telling you, oh, that's a stupid idea. Oh, of course, go to the library. That's a great way to spend your afternoon. That's not the kind of people.
Put them hater blockers on.
Yeah, you do not need that in your life.
No.
Find the people that add value and are smarter than you.
Well, look, you may have heard it before. You're the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with,
Yes.
right? And so think about the 5 people you spend the most time with in your life right now, and you're the sum of those people. You just are. I know we were.
Yep. And if you don't like the sum of those people, then you have to change those people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make a decision. These are the people I'm going to surround myself with.
Well, look, it doesn't mean you cut people out of your life. We still love people,
Yeah.
and people are people, but it means being purposeful to spend time with the right people.
Yeah. And going out of our way, inviting the right people to dinner, inviting people over to hang out. Like, hey, I'll cook you dinner. Please come to my house and hang out.
Please let me talk to you.
But it's a silly thing, but I'm already cooking for 5 people. Adding 2 more isn't going to change my grocery bill that much. Please come to dinner and have a conversation with us. That was a really easy thing that once we made the decision that we were able to act on pretty quickly.
Yeah. And so I think one of the other things, like when you think about it, like you get to a certain point where it's hard to find people who are doing more.
Yes.
Right. And you may be in that point yourself. And so what we did is we actually went out and found a networking group that we felt added value to our discussion.
Yeah.
And so Emily, for us, what was that?
So that was Apex. And we went to that MDM, which we've talked about a couple of times. That's $1 Million Mastermind, and it's Ryan Stewman's networking group, and it's called Apex. And so it's all of these people who are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs and it's not any one thing. And
it's a pretty healthy melting pot of people, but it's all people who are hungry.
Yeah. And want change and want to do it better and want to do it better for the right reasons for the most part. And I mean, just watching the networking and watching the encouragement, like, hey, get up, go do this. There is no excuse that's worth this effort. Go do the work. And we see it every day in and out. And so when we're struggling, it's like our Facebook feed at this point is mostly these people.
Yeah.
So like we don't spend time like twiddling our thumbs anymore.
Man, it's really crazy. I was looking the other day. I have a Facebook problem, And I think like 6 months ago, I would spend like a couple hours a day scrolling through social media. And I'm down to maybe like 30 or 40 minutes a day. And part of that is because of this and work and what we're trying to do. But just replacing that one habit with, hey, I'm going to listen to a podcast, or hey, I'm going to listen to a book, or I'm going to listen to like a motivational speech or something like that. I love Spotify's got all kinds of like Eric Thomas and Tony Robbins and all those guys track to music. And I love putting that shit on and getting in the gym and getting better. And that's part of it, going out and finding some health in your life. I had this realization that like, if I don't do fucking something about my weight, I'm not going to be here to walk these kids down the aisle. Yeah. So fuck money. Like they're not going to have me if I don't do something. So, I'm down 80 pounds in the last, year or so. And about 40 of that's been in the last 3 months. Yeah. So that, I'm just kicking yourself in the ass and realizing like, hey, you've got to make the change. Yeah. They're worth it. Like you owe them. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be brought into this world. Like I put them here. Yeah. We put them here. It was a decision. And so we are responsible for that decision and giving them everything that we feel like they should have. Yeah. And if you don't feel like your kids should have all that, that's cool. Like that's not for me to say. I don't care. You give your kids what you feel like is the picture of success and health and wisdom and knowledge that you owe them. That might be different for you.
They're also going to be the ones that take care of us in the nursing home.
Yeah, for sure, right?
I want them to have the very best so that we have the very best later in life.
You reap what you sow. Reap what you sow.
And I am planting those seeds down deep.
So if one of y'all little shits are listening to this, Daddy loves you.
But Mommy loves you more.
No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't.
So to my oldest daughter, I love you most. But, so another thing that's kind of simple that doesn't cost anything.
Oh, and we've struggled with this one a little bit. Like, it's a habit you have to build, right?
We kind of held each other accountable. We had this conversation last night. Like, we are going to do this on purpose every night. If we start to go lay down, we're going to wake each other up. Be like, nope, we need to do this real quick. And that thing is a gratitude journal.
And it sounds so cheesy.
It does a little bit.
Doesn't it sound cheesy? Like, oh, I'm going to write down all the stuff I'm fucking thankful for today. Yay.
Except it's literally in every book that we've read.
So, but it builds what it does. And we did it for a little while. We were using, there's lots of ways you can do this. I mean, you keep a paper journal, you can use a note app. Ryan Stewman has a free app called G Code that kind of gives you a breakdown there. And that's what we were doing. Yeah. It also holds you accountable for like your workout and what you spent time on for the day. So if you're looking for something that's just, it's free, doesn't cost anything. It's really easy. It's just a cool tool that he puts out in the universe for people to add value to. So, but what it does is it forces you to look for things through a thankful lens, right? It forces you to say, hey, what good happened today at the end of the day? And so I know, like, I'm kind of a pessimistic person.
No, not you.
Well, I prefer realistic. I'm a realistic person. I don't like a lot of fluffy bullshit. It is or it isn't. You did or you didn't. Don't bullshit me, okay? And so at the end of the day, I'm looking for all the flaws that I fucked up so that I can not fuck up again tomorrow. And so you almost, like, I know for myself, I get into this negative perspective a lot looking at that and be like, man, I was a fucking loser today. I didn't do what I needed to do. And you kind of get down on yourself. But the gratitude aspect forces me to go in and look for things that were positive in my day. Yeah. And it changes your framing on things. It changes the way you talk and the way you think. And those are all super fucking important. It really changes your mindset.
So, and for you stay-at-home moms out there, for you homeschool moms, it is so easy to be like, oh my gosh, we just barely survived today. I just want to have a glass of wine and go to bed. Please don't touch me. Please don't talk to me. And this one thing allowed me to kind of just refocus. Like, we started on this journey and it was like, the first couple of days were so terrible and the kids were like out of control. It was chaos and it would rain and then somebody would fall down and scrape their knee. And immediately what I saw wasn't, everything's ruined. My whole schedule's off. It was, okay, how can we make this make sense? How can I find something to be thankful for in this terrible moment? And it shifted my thinking with my kids in a way that it didn't ruin my day.
Yeah.
And I was able to refocus and not lose myself in the grind of being with them all the time, and go find fun and see the world through their eyes. And just taking 5 minutes to see the world through your children's eyes, I promise you, you will find something to be thankful for.
Well, and look, here's the reality, right? Most of this, a lot of this getting better and growing comes through like your train of thought,
Yes.
right? Like that's like 70, 80% of it. The rest of it's doing, and you've got to do a lot of doing,
Yeah.
but you're not ever going to keep doing unless you get in the right frame of mind.
Yes.
And that's the hard part, is getting there and staying there. I know, like in sales, like we struggle
it's a
with this as
mind
sales
game.
guys, because it's such a mind game, right? And you've got to be in the right frame of mind. And if the best sales guys in the world are those ones that just don't let shit affect them, they're able to stay in and zone in and stay in that place that they're just super productive all the time. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's exhausting sometimes. And so if you can hack your brain to say, fuck everything else, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to be happy, and I'm just going to keep doing. I'm going to persist. I'm not going to give up, and fuck whatever else happens. It'll just be okay. Right. And that's 90% of it. If you can do that, you'll get this.
Yes.
And so I think what we want you to get from this is that you're worth the risk. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your fucking kids.
You owe it to your spouse.
To your spouse. You owe it to your wife or your husband. To be better tomorrow than you were today.
Yes.
Right? If you are looking at your life and you're the same person physically, emotionally, mentally that you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, you need to evaluate yourself and do something different. Get off the fucking couch. Go do the work.
Yeah.
Everything you want is on the other side of hard. Get up and do hard.
Yeah.
Right? It sucks. But you can't sit and talk about all the fucking flaws in your life and all the flaws in the world and how you got shortchanged and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
You lose the right. You forfeit that conversation when you fail to act.
And you start acting, it really is perpetual motion.
Mm-hmm.
You take one step, you take 2 steps, and it starts rolling down the hill. And there will be everything coming against you. But as long as you keep taking the next step and the next step, it doesn't even have to be big steps.
Yeah.
Just take
Do
the
something.
next step and go.
It's one good choice at a time. I know when I started my weight loss thing, like when I had an annual, like a little over a year ago, I was 467. And I didn't have like this coming to Jesus moment. I just said, man, I need to start making some better choices. And I did.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't drastic shit.
No.
It was little, and I still have a long way to go. I'm nowhere near where I need to be. I'm only down to 380. But I've got to get to where I want to be. But it's one good choice at a time. It's going through the drive-thru and ordering a grilled chicken sandwich instead of a fucking quarter pounder.
And
you know?
getting an unsweet tea
And
instead
getting
of
an
a
unsweet tea.
soda.
Yeah. And that's how it started, was just making little choices. And then a couple months ago when I added exercise in, it changed everything for me. But you've got to fucking do something. And so I heard a quote recently. It's pretty popular. I've heard it before, but it's success is for rent, and rent's due every fucking day. You got to go do the work every day. You can't just stand by idle and expect things to be better. You can't have a lottery mindset. Oh, one day I'm going to be wealthy. I'm going to hit that fucking Powerball. No, you're not. It's never going to happen. I mean, buy the ticket. Don't not play if you want to play, but fucking go do some work, right? Go fucking put in the time and invest in your family because they deserve it.
And remember that this is not a microwave fix. Like you are not going to get 2 minutes into this and be like, everything's better. Here is the reality that you're going to get 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 weeks into this, and it's going to be fucking hard.
Suck. You're going to be like, man, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
This is dumb.
Your muscles are going to ache. Your brain's going to hurt. You're going to be overwhelmed, but you have to keep going.
And here's the thing, like if you're like, oh, I'm just doing fucking phenomenal, then you're probably not. You probably need to surround some people in your life to put some accountability in and say, hey, this is where you need to change, or hey, this is what's going on. and put those people in your life and allow them to talk into your life and give them permission.
Yes.
And say, hey man, when I fuck up, I expect you to tell me that I fucked up.
So, and if you know us, you know that you can reach out to us. We want those people in our lives. If you're on this journey, walk it with us. If you want an accountability partner, reach us in the DMs, message us on any of the socials, because we're on this journey too, and we're looking for people that'll hold us accountable. And it's not about being unkind. We want to do it in a kind way, but it's real. And when you mess up, it needs to get fixed.
I think sometimes real feels unkind.
It does.
Right? Like sometimes when we're real with each other, like my wife says shit to me sometimes, like, man, that was fucked up. You're a bitch. The fuck are you talking to? But then like I'll shut my mouth and go pout in the corner and feel sorry for myself. And I'm like, man, she's right. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah. You know, like we give each other the permission to talk into each other's life about that and hold each other accountable.
And we give each other a moment to be mad, and then we get to work.
And like there's some times where we have to come back and have more conversation. Yeah. Right. But dig into it with your spouse. And if you don't have a spouse, go be the version of you that your spouse is going to deserve.
Yeah. That's
right.
Good.
You know, because someday you're going to have a husband or a wife out there that's going to rely on you to be their everything or to be part of their everything. And they deserve the best version of you can give them.
And you attract what you put out there.
Absolutely. You want to be fucking...
If you want a spouse that's healthy and intelligent, you have to be healthy and intelligent. You attract what you put into this world. So if you're not married and you want to be married, you better start doing the things that you need to do that would attract the person that you want in your life.
Oh, I want to get that lover boy that's athletic and successful and owns a company and makes lots of money.
You're not going to find him at the club.
No.
You're going to find him at the gym.
And you're not going to find him on your couch playing video games either.
So,
you know, there's go out and fucking do the work. Go put yourself in rooms with people that you want to be around, that you want to live life with. Go put yourself in the room.
Yeah. If you want to be in a room, if you want to marry a CEO, then you need to be in a room where there are CEOs. And the only way to do that is to become a CEO
For
yourself.
Sure. Not even.
But I mean, really, you got to be at least in that mindset. So if I want that in my life, then I'm going to look for those people, those network groups.
For sure. Like, yeah, you can get into some like business groups or marketing or there's lots of ways to get access to the people that you want, even just social media and connecting with those people on social media. But guys, the first step and the last step are the same. You got to own it. You know, you've got to come to a place where you look in the mirror and you see the person looking back and you're just not happy with who it is. I know, for me, that's what happened. Like, I don't want to be this fat piece of shit anymore. My family deserves better. I'm going to put myself in a position to be here. And I'm not there yet. I'm still a fat piece of shit, but I'm better than I was yesterday. Yeah. And that's what it's about. It's just about being better tomorrow. Tomorrow needs a better version of you.
Yes.
Believe me, tomorrow needs the best version of us that we can give it, because tomorrow's looking pretty fucked up in a lot of ways, right? Our kids deserve
a better chance
than what we were given.
And what's out there right now. And the only way we can change that is to change ourselves now. Mm-hmm. We have to lay that foundation now so they can walk on steady ground and build it up right.
My kids are going to be lions. I feel sorry for the boy that tries to marry any of my daughters.
Yeah.
Any of them.
All of them.
They are going to be strong, courageous, forceful, and unapologetic in every aspect of their life. And so are their children, because I'm going to raise them to raise lions.
Yeah.
We are not going to settle for mediocre, and you shouldn't either. So stop letting the force of average fuck you and go do the work.
So kind of finishing this out, we want to encourage you on that first step. And so what we are going to do on our live this week is we're actually going to give away a couple of copies of some books that we found to be valuable on our first steps. What books are we giving away, Sean?
So I think we've got a couple copies of Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. This is one that really changed my life. Definitely on my top 5. just an awesome book about just discovering who you are and what makes you tick and what is out there that we were told could never be. So we're going to give a copy of that away. I think we should probably give a copy away of, do we have some traveler's gifts around in?
Yeah, I've got a copy of Traveler's Gift that we're going to give away. And I think that we're going to do the 7 principles as well.
7 principles, cool.
So if you want to enter and you prefer fictional stories, the Traveler's Gift,
yeah, it's a great
great
read.
Story. And it's the same information just presented in a fictional story. The 7 principles digs deeper, but it's the same principles throughout the book.
It was really cool for me to read both of those and see how I learned differently from each of them, because they're both the same subject matter, the same content, just presented in a different perspective. One is very informative and nonfiction, and the other one is very just intertraced into a story.
Yeah.
So very cool.
So how do you enter to win a copy of one of these books, Sean?
So all we're going to ask you to do this week is share this episode of the podcast on one of your social media feeds. That'll get you an entry, and then just show up on Thursday for 10:30. That'll get you another entry. And you got to be liked and subscribed to win.
So, and once we pick a winner, we'll reach out and get your address, and we'll get that book in the mail.
Drop it in the mail, postage paid. We'll even autograph it for you.
Autograph it for
your
you.
excuses and everything right inside of it. So make sure you show up on Thursday for that. Would really like to give away all of those copies this week, and make sure someone gets some good meat out of that. But guys, if you know somebody who you think would get something from this, and listen, if you've been stuck in the rut yourself and you just need some more help, please reach out. We're happy to talk through some stuff with you if you need it. But share this thing. There's someone in your life that can get something out of this episode for sure. So please make sure you're sharing this on your social media. It helps us grow. Leave that 5-star review. We really appreciate it. We're trying to do something here, and we need your help. So be that blessing for us and save us the marketing dollars that we're going to have to spend, and just share it for free. We'll be happy, and we'll throw a book at you. I mean, not literally, but
if you need us to,
we will.
We can throw it at you, but we'll also just mail it.
Good stuff. So, Emily, anything else we need to touch on today?
No, again, just thank you everybody for being here. And remember that we are here to hold each other accountable. Let's walk this journey together. For sure.
Well, guys, thanks for coming out. Next week, we're talking about some cool shit next week too. So stay tuned. We'll see you at 10:30 on our live on Thursday. That's 10:30 Eastern time on Thursday. So make sure you're down for that and catch that book giveaway. We'll see you then. Fuck your excuses.